Defend yourself against DDoS attacks by hiding your true IP address with ExpressVPN, and visit my custom link expressvpn.com/ghilliemaster in the description to find out how you can get an extra 3 months free. Over the past few days, I've been going back and replaying some of the old heists in gtaonline from 2015, especially on my PC character with the double money bonus happening right now, and it really just kind of opened my eyes once again to the fact that these old heists are so outdated and feel archaic in their design compared to heists and missions from the past 5 years of updates even. We went through an entire pack standard heist on PC on Saturday, and there were multiple points where I thought to myself, why does this require 4 people? And on a broader scale, you can ask that question about so many of the annoying heist setup missions in the game right now. It's not just about the mission designs themselves either, but we will get into specific examples in just a bit here. But just the process of loading back into free mode after every setup, which sometimes takes forever, then either having to wait for a heist invite from Lester so you can get back to your apartment fast, which also sometimes takes forever. And on PC, I never even get heist invites from Lester for some reason. Or you can set your spawn location to your apartment and find a new session, which means another cloud loading screen you have to go through. Just the constant switching from job to clouds to free mode to clouds to job, and having to re-invite everyone every step of the way is just super tiresome nowadays. And it's something that I'm very glad they are going away with, where most things are done now either in free mode lobby itself, where only the finale is a separate mission, or sometimes even the finales are done in instanced free mode sessions where you still have access to most of your things, just like the agency contracts, for example, how those are, with the FIB files. Now I know what you might be thinking, wow, heists from 2015 over 10 years ago are outdated, who would have guessed that? Obviously, they are going to be outdated and archaic in their design from being back then, but it's interesting to imagine how the heists could be brought up and improved to 2025 standards. And so I want to go through each mission from the pack standard heist and discuss what could be changed about them to make them less of a chore. What would a modern day pack standard heist look like, for instance, if Rockstar were to release the OG heists with 2025 structure and design? So starting off with the first setup, vans, there are 2 teams, the navigators and the drivers. The navigators have to use the Trackify app to locate the post-op vans, and then they have to relay that information to the drivers via this weird communication system where you can use arrows to tell them where to turn. And this mission has got to be one of the worst designed missions in the game, because logically it just makes zero sense. You can tell they're really just grasping at straws trying to shoehorn a way to force 4-player co-op on you here. Because what usually happens is that the navigators just drive their own car while using the Trackify app on their phone at the same time. And the driver role is just entirely useless. They don't do anything. It's crazy, right? Doing 2 roles in one, there's no need for 2 different roles and a dedicated communication system between the 2. It's just useless. What's funny is there's even a mission in single player where you also use Trackify while driving at the same time. You know when you have to find Michael as Franklin when he's kidnapped at the meat factory? So then why do we need 2 separate roles and 4 players for this mission in online? By modern standards, this should be a setup you can just do completely solo, going to each of the 4 vans and photographing them by yourself. There's no need to require 4 people on this mission. It's really not a hard mission to modernize, just cut the bloat and silly 4-player requirement and call it a day. Pacific Standard Signal I think is even easier to modernize than the previous one because there are no roles in this mission. All you do is go and save Avi Schwartzman from his island, lose the cops, and bring him back to a hideout. And again, I don't see how this mission needs 4 players to get it done. Now would 4 players make it easier for you? Sure it would. But even by the mission's current design, it could be done entirely solo without even getting any help from the other 3 players you have in your lobby. So this would be another mission where you could just lower the player requirement from 4 to 1 to 4, and that would be pretty easy to do. For the hack mission, it requires 4 players and 2 teams. 3 people will be on the decoy team with the fake van, and 1 person will drive the real van away once you take the equipment from the decoy van. This is yet another mission where I don't see why it needs 4 players. If they really wanted to keep the decoy design, that could only require 1 other player to drive the decoy van, but not 3 other players. 2 people could very easily get this job done, and again, the benefit to bringing more than 2 players should be it makes the missions easier, but not requires them in order to start the mission. The decoy van would be hard to defend while driving away because you wouldn't have anyone in the back to shoot at the people following you, but we also have heist armor that could help out with that too with damage mitigation. The other thing they could do here is make the decoy van entirely optional, where if you do it solo, then you don't have access to that decoy van, and then you instead get chased even in the actual van. That would require redesigning the whole mission though, so that would likely never happen. So just lowering this to a 2-player requirement would make more sense here, I think. For the convoy setup, it's really the same thing as the Avi Schwartzman mission, where more players just makes it easier, but I don't see how 4 players should be a requirement here, because just like Signal, there are no dedicated roles here. Everyone is doing the same thing. Now, if you were to be solo on this mission, escaping would be a bit more difficult because you'd have to stop and take out the savages before they get to you, but that's easy enough to do. You could also just hop in the truck and then wait out the savages to snipe them at a distance as well, like you do for the initial savage before the ambush. So by 2025 standards, convoys should also be a soloable mission made easier with the option to bring more players. And that brings us to our last setup mission, bikes. Just like the previous one, there are no roles, it's just stealing 4 bikes from the Lost Clubhouse. Now, making 4 trips as a solo player would be kind of annoying, but it would be doable in the end if you really wanted to do it like that. But here's the catch, I think you should really only require 2 bikes to steal here, because in the finale, even if you have 4 people, the bike seats 2 people, so you can have 2 people on each bike and go from there. But much like other optimizations I've suggested, it's about giving the player the choice to make the mission easier if they want to, as opposed to forcing them to play a very specific way. So making bikes a 1 to 4 player mission with the option of bringing back 2 to 4 bikes depending on how you want to run the finale would be ideal. And speaking of the finale, how do we optimize this for 2025 standards? Well, there are 3 roles on the finale, the hacker, the demolitions, and 2 crowd control people. Realistically, you don't need 2 people on crowd control because you could just take out your minigun or whatever gun you prefer and fire around everyone as 1 person to scare them enough. And for the people going inside of the vault, I don't see how demolitions and hacker need to be 2 separate roles. In the casino heist aggressive approach, you can both plant thermal charges and hack doors as 1 person. So why here do we need 1 person to do one and 1 person to do the other role on this heist? And when you're in the vaults, the recommended strategy is to have 1 person grab both stacks of money so that they are the only ones that lose money from being shot. So then you have the other people clear out the enemies and the person who grabbed all the money stays back to prevent loss of profits. Hacker and demolitions could be brought into just 1 role, and crowd control could be its own role requiring just 1 other person, which would bring this heist down to a 2-player requirement. Then on the getaway, since the previous mission would only require 2 bikes, well, if you have 2 players, then it's perfect, but even if you brought all 4 players on the heist, it would still work out in the end because the bikes have 2 seats each. So that's how I would optimize the Pacific Standard heist to bring it to 2025 standards. But real quick, I do want to just go on a tangent about a specific mission in general from the Humane Labs raid, one that you guys are probably very familiar with, and it's kind of an infamous setup mission. I am of course talking about Deliver EMP. Now, if you've ever done quick job heists where you just go on your phone and go quick job heist and it puts you into a random mission, 9 times out of 10, it's going to put you in this Deliver EMP mission because it just sucks. And just from the get-go, it's horrible because when you start off at your apartment, which is likely in the city. You have to drive all 4 miles-ish it is up to the place where the insurgents are, and then you have to get everyone in the insurgent and drive another, 3.5 miles over to Humane Labs. That alone takes like 10 minutes to do. You spend half of this mission just driving and not even doing the stealth segment. What the mission should do is start you right at the insurgent spot, not at your apartment. That would be much nicer. The stealth segment would still be frustrating, especially doing it with randoms, having to restart if you just make 1 little mistake, but at least you wouldn't be driving and wasting your time doing that. But another change I should make to Deliver EMP, why in the world do we need 4 players to stealth? We don't. In fact, I would argue bringing more players along actually contributes to the failure rate of this mission increasing. It's kind of like the Caprico effect, where if you bring 4 players, it's actually much more difficult than just doing the heist solo. It's the same concept here. You don't need 4 players to just stealth kill a bunch of guards. Anyways, that's my rant on that mission. I just had to bring that up because it's super annoying. Now, will any of these changes ever be implemented? Will they ever go back and change heists from 10 plus years ago? Definitely not. It's not going to happen. But it is interesting to just conceptualize how much better the old heists could be with current mission designs that they use. The Oscar Guzman Flies Again missions are a perfect example of giving the player the choice to make missions however challenging they want via optional stuff to grab on the setups. If you want to only grab 1 helicopter on the Iron Meal setup, that's fine. If you only want to grab 1 mogul, that's also fine, but it's just going to make the finale a little bit more difficult. It just feels so much nicer playing through that mission strand, where we have the freedom ourselves to make the missions play out how we want them to, as opposed to the chores of the old heist setup missions. And really, I'm not blaming Rockstar here for the way the old heists are. Back in 2015, they didn't have the experience they do now in terms of the online mission design. And back then, the whole solo experience wasn't really much of a desire as it is today in GTA Online. So they probably figured players actually wanted co-op experiences in GTA back then. But as we go forward and eventually we get into GTA 6's multiplayer, I hope they really never go back to the really restrictive content that were the OG heists. Anyways, let me know your thoughts about this down in the comments. Would you want to see the old heist missions get some changes? And if you enjoyed the video or found it helpful, feel free to leave a like as well as subscribe to my channel for more GTA Online content. I also want to give a huge shout out to all of my channel members for your support. If you'd like to become a member for some exclusive perks, you can either use the join button or the link that's down in the description. And as always, thanks for watching and have a great day.